Today's video is about obligations, because we all have those things that we have to do in life that we don't want to do. Like changing my oil today. I definitely don't want to do this, but kind of have to if I want to drive anywhere. I will say this is the biggest perk of having a lifted vehicle is I don't have to jack it up. If you can get oil into the pan and get this freaking bolt off without getting oil on you, I applaud you. I hope you know that I'm kidding about the whole obligations thing. I don't mind changing my oil, mainly because it's really not that hard. Today's video is mostly about buying used, because I feel like everyone in this industry feels the need that they always have to have the latest and greatest camera. But when you're starting, or even when you're like intermediate, you don't have to buy new. There are things and plenty of gear and lenses and camera bodies out there that will 1000% get the job done being used a little bit. First thing I want to say is make use of what you have. I'm guilty of this. A lot of times I always want the nicest, newest thing and I just want to go buy. But in this instance, like for putting oil back in, I should probably use a funnel. But I'm too lazy to buy one. So what I do have is a water bottle though. And if I cut off the bottom, like I always do, it works the same. So 9 times out of 10, I'll have a piece of gear that will 1000% get the job done that I have just laying around. I usually am just too lazy to use it, or again, I want the latest, greatest, shiny new thing. Also, no one ever talks about just having a good pocket knife. Like, this is like literally the most underrated little tool that you can have on you at all times. I can't tell you how many things I've used this for, like cutting off little random threads on a portrait shoot, getting freaking O-rings off of oil filters, and like I've even cut some hair at a wedding, like with a pocket knife. Like, you can save the day. You could be a hero. Just get a good pocket knife. This one's from Wesson. Not sponsored at all, but it's a good pocket knife, and I like it. So I've had it for a little while now, and definitely gets the job done. With that being said, I know that used gear can also cause a lot of frustrations. And if you know me, you know that with this Jeep has brought a lot of joy, but also a crap ton of frustrations, because it's had its issues. That's for sure. It's starting to rain, so I'm gonna hurry up and finish this, and we'll continue talking, don't worry. Also, I hope you didn't think I was bluffing about the water bottle funnel. Like, I was dead serious. That is exactly what I use as a funnel for my oil. Okay, with all that being said, I'm going to go through each brand, let you know which one's best for what, so you can buy the right camera for you, because it doesn't matter what I do if it's not what you do. I can only make recommendations that work best for me, and the things that I know, and then you're going to have to make those decisions from there, which is why I recommend buying used, because you can get a better deal, save some money, and figure out if that's the camera system for you, instead of buying all this new gear and then it going to waste. I don't want you to do that. That's what I do. I waste money. I don't want you to. We don't need two of us. Alright, first things first, why it matters buying into a system. One thing to note, no company's perfect. They don't exist. There is no such thing as a perfect camera company. There are ones that might suit you better than others, and others that work better for other people. There is no perfection. No perfect camera exists. Keep that in mind. First things first, buy what works for you. Everyone works differently. I know I work very different than other people in my industry, which is weddings. And everyone has different needs and wants. So when you hear certain YouTubers tell you you should buy this camera versus this camera, keep in mind, most likely that plays into what they do for a living. If you're a YouTuber, most likely simplicity, travel friendly, small, incognito, that camera will probably work best for you. These cameras kind of range from the new Fujifilm X-M5, the Sony ZV-E1, the A7C II. Like, there's different niche cameras, even like the Lumix S9, that fit being a YouTuber much better than most other cameras would ever work in that situation. Most of the time, they're just small, compact cameras that are simple and easy to use and to get out of your way. So for YouTuber, those small, compact usually comes first in what you would need in a camera, like this Osmo Pocket 3. If you buy one of these to get started in YouTube, I can't recommend a better camera for that. Next, I'm going to try and quickly explain which camera systems or companies do what best. They're all in different kind of leagues of their own, so take this all with a grain of salt. This is just my personal observation and what I've come to notice after using several cameras. To give you an idea of what cameras I have used, I've had at least 4 Fujifilm cameras, I've had 7 Sony cameras, I've had 6 Canon cameras, and I've only borrowed one friend's Nikon. So I've had quite a bit of experience with different camera systems and companies, and here's what I've gathered from that information to tell you what camera system does what best. All right, first of all, Fuji, I feel like, is your great beginner to intermediate camera. That is not a shot at anyone who uses them professionally. If you know how they work and it works best for you, that's perfect. I'm happy for you. That's how it should be. For most people who haven't bought a Fujifilm yet, they are great compact little cameras. They have a beautiful retro feel to them. The Fujifilm recipes are super fun to play with and are great for if you're just looking for a personal camera to just kind of buy and help document your life or like daily activities. They are good for, travel, things of that nature. I personally don't think they're ready for certain professional environments. After having the XH2S for a while, I noticed that the autofocus would hunt and kind of jump a little bit. They've come a long way, so they still have room for improvement, but again, they are better for like being a leisure / personal camera than a professional environment camera. My personal opinion, take that how you want. Second is Canon. And Canon does a great job of skin tones. They have a pretty good autofocus system and a pretty decent range of glass to purchase. Keep in mind they're going to be a little more on the expensive side unless you use adapters for the EF line. But they are great for like weddings, portrait work. They have just a good out of camera look to most of the files. When using C-Log 2, which is the only log profile I recommend from Canon, I don't like C-Log 3 and I don't care for C-Log. C-Log 2 is probably one of the greatest log profiles to come out of any kind of consumer camera. They're very easy to grade, good skin tones. It's just easy to make look good. So that's Canon. Travel friendly, I don't think they're the best. I don't think they're the best travel camera. Their ergonomics are very good, almost second to none, I might say. And I don't know. They used to be very reliable cameras. My wife has 2 R6s that we use for weddings, and they are just not the most trustworthy cameras. They could randomly pop up with an error 20, and then we have to like reboot the camera, and then it works the rest of the day. So take that how you will. I know some people that have 0 issues with them. So they're not my favorite, but most people who do portraits or pictures of people, if that's what you're doing, they're really good cameras for that. Third on this list is Sony, which is my personal favorite. You can call me a fanboy. I don't care. What works for me works for me. I'm not tied to a brand. I will jump whenever. But that's besides the point. Sony has extremely good autofocus. I've noticed in my A7R5 and ZVE1 that they tend to lock onto a face, and once they find it, they don't let go, which is exactly what I want shooting weddings. Out of camera, the files can use a little bit of work. They're not the greatest straight out of camera, but they're by far not the worst. The color science has come a long way. I think these are great for portrait work. They're good for travel. They're small enough. You got a pretty good range of glass for Sony E-mount. Pretty much everyone makes a E-mount lens. And I feel like you can find them fairly decently in the used market. They're not that hard to find for a good price. And they tend to be fairly reliable, at least the newer generation. The older generation, sometimes you can get some finicky errors randomly. But overall, a very reliable, good camera. It can kind of do everything. Let's say jack of all trades, master of none, even though it is pretty darn close to being a master. So that's my personal opinion. Take that how you want. No, the Sony green cast is not a plague to the newer cameras. They have redone their color science. If you buy an old Sony camera, be aware that green color cast in skin tones is there and is sometimes a pain in the butt to fix. S-Log 3 for your video people, it's fine. It's not my favorite thing to color grade, but it's by far, again, not the worst. F-Log is still not my favorite to grade. Next would be Lumix. I know I haven't personally used one, but after everything that I've seen, videographers tend to rave over these cameras for video work, just because they're just feature packed, which I can get behind, but the downside is the autofocus is just nowhere close. So keep that in mind. If you don't care about autofocus as much, then these cameras are perfectly fine. Their colors look great out of camera from what I can see, and they seem like they can kind of do a little bit of everything. I would say if color is more your thing, I would probably lean a little bit more towards the Lumix cameras than Sony, if the other features don't matter to you. Lastly, we got Nikon. Nikon, I've only used one. The colors out of the camera were very true to life. So if you like that true to life look and you don't like to finesse any kind of particular look to it, and that's your starting baseline, perfect camera for you. I see these used all the time for wildlife, mainly due to the extensive range of glass. When it comes to telephotos, Nikon is primarily known for really good glass and optics, so take that how you want. I would say they have a very good base lens, which is the 24-120 f4 instead of 24-105. Believe it or not, that extra 16 millimeters on the far end does make a difference and makes that lens, in my opinion, a lot more valuable. But again, I feel like they're fairly affordable cameras for what they are. The Z6 Mark III looks like a phenomenal camera, even though I've never used it. I know it shoots RAW internally. It has a crazy burst rate. The files look great. What more do you want? It seems like a great value for money, probably the best bang for your buck out of any camera system currently. So yeah, that's pretty much my list at what you might be looking for. I know that Nikon, I didn't really touch on their autofocus because, again, I've never used the camera. I can tell you that the newer cameras are much better. They seem like they tend to be pretty close to the Canon Sony range when it comes to autofocus. So I don't know, if you're looking for a Nikon, I'd probably buy a newer one, like the Z6 III would probably be a great one, or the Nikon ZF seems like a super fun retro styled camera. And yeah, that's the list. And what I would say they're probably good at, again, jack of all trades, master of none. Most of these camera companies tend to lean into that, doing mostly everything and not mastering any of them. So again, figure out what you're looking for. Are you planning on shooting wildlife? Are you planning on doing more portraits? Are you planning on doing like weddings? Do you plan on doing more commercial work? Like, believe it or not, what you do plays more of a big role into what camera system you buy into than the next YouTuber just ranting and raving about what camera you should buy. So just keep that in mind. It does play a big role, because once you buy into a system, it's very difficult to swap. I know that personally. You end up spending a lot of money, and I don't want you making the same mistake as me. A lot of these YouTubers get their cameras, gear, and stuff like that sent to them for testing, so they get to play around with a lot of stuff. With all that being said, I do have some videos lined up for you guys. I'm waiting for some gear to come in. Don't worry, it's just rented. I didn't buy anything. I don't need any gear, but I rented it to make sure I can make some more videos for you guys and stay consistent, because I know that's the only way I'm going to keep this channel alive. So with all that being said, I hope you guys have a good one. God bless, and I'll see you guys in the next one.